Hi, thanks for coming out on this cold, cold morning. I'm Sarah Hill, the Technical Services Librarian. I spoke to a few of you over email or in person, and I just wanted to say thank you for coming and give a quick announcement that I've just handed out. I think everyone's got one, a survey. If you could fill this out at the end of the presentation or during the presentation and just put them on the table back there by Ann, we'll collect those. That would really help me know how to continue planning. A lot of you probably know that this is part of a greater project that our 90 libraries in SELCO are moving their holdings to OCLC. So this is part of a multi-year project where we're weeding and cleaning up our collections and sort of getting everything nice and tidy for when we move things over to OCLC. And we've asked Mary and Holly here today to come and discuss some of those aspects. So I'm just going to introduce them real quickly, and I'm going to read their very funny bios. Holly Hibner, received an MLIS degree from Wayne State University. She can be found heading up the Adult Services Department at the Plymouth District Library. Hibner struts her stuff around the library, which is super cool, while bending technology to her will. She is still riding high and pulling every ounce of glory out of her 2007 load up.
We need to retire at that point. She is still working that.
She won an award from Michigan
in 07, whatever. What have you done lately?
And then we have Mary Kelly, received an MBA and an MLIS from Wayne State University, after which she has spent years irritating coworkers with grand plans for collection development and or world domination. She is currently working as the Youth Services Librarian at the Lyon Township Public Library, holding young minds through toddler disco.
It's an awesome program.
Okay. Toddler disco. Mary's OCD tendencies have turned her into a crusade for collection quality and clean shelf lists, which she carries in her purse.
True story. True story. I have one in my purse right now.
So Mary, along with Holly, have turned this obsession loose on the world through their website, awfullibrarybooks.net, which is a great website. It's very funny. You should check it out. So please join your hands and welcome Mary and Kelly.
Well, sir.
Very important thing, where's the bathroom?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Bathroom is out. Go ahead. The bathrooms are out the door, and you go down the hall, and to the right, and they'll be on your left. There actually are 3. So you can pick which one you need. And I was going to say that somebody lost a scarf and a glove.
All right, well, fair warning, we have the sense of humor of 12-year-old boys, so there is that. If you're on Twitter, this is a hashtag that a friend of ours, librarian, has really tried to get people using it, Librarian Thug Life. So we're doing our part to encourage Librarian Thug Life, the hashtag. You can find us on Twitter at awfullibebooks because, you know, you only get 140 characters, so. I'm at H. Hibner. That's at LibraryMary40. We're all over the Twitter. We love it. This presentation is at this SlideShare address, so knock yourself out. You can download it. You can have it, embrace it, sleep with it, whatever. It's all yours. Yeah, don't feel like you have to take notes. We'll give them. It's all free. It's all free. Unless I say something really genius, write it down because it's probably not going to happen again. Embrace that moment. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to jump in. A good library is like a good haircut. Are we supposed to do this one? I think you are. You apparently like it. We do this all the time. A good library is like a haircut. It's not what you cut, it's what you leave. And I think this applies so much in collection management up there. We usually don't like to read slides, but there's a few that we're going to read. It's a very few. This is very important to us, the collection life cycle. Weeding is so important, but it's only one piece of the life cycle. A collection has a complete life cycle, and every step around the circle is crucial. I mean, you can't have a quality collection without every piece. You select it, you buy it, you process it and catalog it, you shelve it, it's used, it's reshelved. You know, sometimes we have to glue bindings and repair things, and then weed or replace. So much as we love to talk about weeding, and we will, it's one piece of the life cycle. So we want you to keep in mind that a quality collection has to be paid attention to throughout its life cycle. You know, if it's got errors in cataloging and processing, you'll see later in our program here how that just causes huge problems. If you look at our website, you'll see why it causes huge problems.
Yeah.
So this collection life cycle, we'll keep kind of harping on it throughout the day.
Also, it serves to point out that almost any item in the library has a fixed life. You know, you can't think, it's not forever. I think we buy it and it's forever. It does have a life cycle, and it does have an end point, I guess, is what you want to say.
I had one of my coworkers, and I don't even remember which library this was, but she had a board member that asked, well, when are they going to be done buying books? Never. Never.
After she finished banging her head on the table.
Right. Never.
You know,
never going to be done.
A lot
the cycle continues.
And you have to think about that. The public and the civilians out there really do kind of think of it as a fixed thing. And all of us have to keep in mind it is moving, it's growing, it's changing directions and who serves. All of those things have a role in making that life cycle, you know, important. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Libraries do not collect things. Books are things. They're physical paper, right? They're things. We don't collect things. We collect information. We provide access to information. That is what we do. I know there's a variety of different library types represented here today. We're both public librarians. Mary has done some time in an academic library. I was a teacher for a hot minute, so I'm familiar with school libraries. Most libraries, okay, if you're an archive, you're exempt. If you're a museum library, you're exempt. Most of the rest of us don't collect things. Am I off base here, or does this seem reasonable? Books are things, right? They come and they go, but they're just things. We get so attached to them. No one likes to throw out a book. It's like it hurts. It's like a child. Somewhere along the way, books became so sacred, but they're just things. It's the information in them that we as librarians are concerned with. We collect the information and the access to information, things that are useful. The information itself is what's useful. The book is just a thing. It's the package. We don't care, right? We don't collect things.
Keep in mind, as we look at how things are changing with the advent of databases and e-books, it'll be, you know, the method will change of how information is transmitted throughout. It won't be necessarily a book anymore, but we still have a role regardless of the media type. So,
Gross, right?
That's my hand, by the way.
I took the picture.
Yeah.
So we're getting into the weeding portion of the program. This is why we weed. You know, if you look at the spine, it's shiny, it's beautiful. If we hadn't pulled the book off the shelf and opened it, we wouldn't have noticed that. We would have left it on the shelf and moved on, because as you're just looking at the shelf and the spines of these books, probably wouldn't have stood out at all.
In fact, a patron brought this one to my attention. And like 4 other books were damaged because of it. We don't know how long.
Oh, mold spread. Ooh, mold is a thing. I'm sorry, that goes in the garbage. You can't recycle mold, you know.
And I bet somebody knows something. Well, I think it could be saved.
We have a friend who works in a biology lab, and she took a sample and came back to us and said, that's a really fast-growing mold. So imagine, like, an entire shelf now. It's spread.
It's ruined.
We now have to weed the entire shelf. So it's not enough just to glance at the shelf and say, okay, it looks good. You have to put your hands on the materials, because you will find things like this. I love that picture.
It was furry, ladies and gentlemen. It was furry. Ew.
Okay, so what this says, this is from the crew manual, is that just because you can't afford to replace it doesn't mean you shouldn't weed it. And I'm coming up on a list of excuses of why we say we don't weed. And that's, by the way, anybody work with people who just hate to weed? If you say no, it's you. I mean, you work with a hoarder?
Has a hoarder.
Yeah, and if you don't think so, it's you.
Yeah, I promise. And there, even my tiny library, we have probably 8 total staff members. All but one are part-time, and we have a hoarder or 2. One really bad. She's in the fetal position whenever I drag a card out in the room.
Yeah.
so yes.
But anyway, we have a lot of people who don't like to weed have a lot of excuses. One of them very often is, but I can't afford to replace it, so I've got to keep it. Well, is it being used? Is it just taking up space? Is it doing more harm than good by being on the shelf? Lack of funds to replace it is not an excuse to not weed it.
You still have to look at the quality of the information it's offering your public.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Go for it.
Archiving and preservation. Those of you who have worked at a public library probably had somebody coming through the door with their 1982 set of encyclopedias, and they're so proud. I know the library would want this.
And we say thank you, and we smile. Lovely.
And then
about it.
I don't really, patrons don't understand that. But when you're in the bathroom rolling your eyes, you really have to take that. That is not a thing you want to put in the collection in a public library. And 1982 encyclopedia doesn't help anybody. However, when people bring that, if I want to, get it along and not crowd up my bathroom because I have no space, you know who would really like that? University of Michigan.
Throw them under the bus.
Well, Michigan and Michigan State all have archives. They would love it. And I know everybody's like, I'm going to kill you. So if you've got a local university,
don't tell that story
with a few archives, because then I use that as an opportunity. Yeah, any academic libraries are really sorry. But we use that as an opportunity to educate the public that we're a different kind of library too. We are not about preserving the body of knowledge. That's what the Smithsonian does. That's what
we don't even have the facilities to do that.
Yeah. Because I also remind patrons, if we did that, your taxes would have to quadruple because we would need special materials to do that.
Air conditioning,
acid-free paper and storage areas, and probably a new building in my case. So once I talk about that, oh, okay.
That's just
then
not
they
what
call
we
the University of Michigan, and I'm sure I'm on their jump call.
Oh, you're on a list.
I'm on a list. And so pick the college that's closest. And if you had a few run-ins in them, why not throw them under the bus? So always in my neck of the woods too, if I do think it has value, I do have a ready list of archives in the area. Sure. Henry Ford Museum in our area is the first one, or it's called the Henry Ford now, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
The Bentley.
Bentley Library Archive, Detroit Public Library also has.
Archives.
Yeah, so there's archives. Get a list of that ahead of time. And if you think that might help your patron, use that as an opportunity to educate them.
Right.
And everybody should have something like that around here, I'm certain. Otherwise, just pick University of Minnesota. It'll be 10. So, benefits of weeding. I don't know how you talk about this one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Trust is huge. When people choose you, they came to the library because they needed something, and they said, the library's going to have what I need. That was what their thinking was. That says so much. They chose you with even a simple thing. Sometimes not a simple thing. Sometimes a life-altering, diagnosis or a financial problem or divorce or something really meaningful to them. They need information. They chose the library. If you're going to hand them the divorce laws of 1982, they're like, you're useless to me. I thought you'd have what I need, and you have failed me. You're not building a lot of trust with your taxpayers when you do that. When you can hand them something useful, up-to-date, in good condition, you find it where it's supposed to be, all things are right with the world, you've built a lot of trust. And even if it is a simple question, do you have this movie? Do you have this Danielle Steele novel? Whatever it may be, when they do have that diagnosis or life-altering situation, they'll remember. You've built that trust with your patrons, and they'll think of the library again. That to me is huge. Building a reputation for your library.
And think about the potential for anything like a millage renewal.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look like you don't know what you're doing with your collection, I think that can backfire real
And
fast.
if your collection is shelves packed full of stuff.
They're gonna
well, you don't need more, do you? You know?
Not enough.
Yeah, you need empty shelves.
Okay.
That's what looks good to taxpayers. So trust is the most important part of weeding.
So now we're going to get into those excuses.
Do you have a boss?
Supervisor, so don't even try this on her.
Well, you can try.
You can try. You will fail.
Yeah. Do you have a boss that won't let you read?
By the way, if there's any bosses in here, can you raise your hand so we know who to mock? Okay. This is directed at you. But my boss won't let me weed.
I could name names.
I
really
could.
could. My boss won't let me do it.
A former director of ours was terrified after reading about the San Francisco library that got caught with the dumpster.
Early 90s, I want to say.
Mid-90s? Everybody old enough to remember. But she was terrified, so she was not going to even hear. And of course, she was kind of a nervous Nellie anyway, so she would not let us touch stuff.
So if your boss won't let you weed, but you know it needs to be done, you need to go in with a plan. You need to say, this is the piece I'm going to start with. I'm not talking about 71,000 items or however many your collection is. I just need to go into the health section, right? Pick some piece that you know just you can't stand it anymore. Tell your boss, I'm just going to start with this little piece. If I can just clean up this one section, here's why. I have statistics. Nothing is left the shelf. The average age of the collection is how old. You have to go to them with not emotion, but data, right? Your boss needs to see the reports and make a case for it. What are you going to do with the things that you weed? Are you going to make some money for the library? Boss might like that. That's a great idea. Space concerns, how much space are you going to free up? I think it's nicer for a nervous boss to hear, I'm just going to start with this one stack. I'm going to make some money for the library. I'm going to free up, an entire shelf for new things. I've got this money that I can't spend in the budget because I don't have anywhere to put the books that I buy. There's all kinds of reasons why you may need to weed.
And then if you want to just kind of drive the message home, and this is where actually all the library books came from, is we had a few samples of horror shows that illustrated what we were talking about. And if you saw the weeding was before, it would say, some of those were Holly and I would use that with the cranky old boss that didn't quite get it. I said, the breast cancer book from 1973 is not helping anybody because it tells people if they're going to die by page 5. So so once she said, oh yeah, that is outdated, it becomes clear that's not better than nothing. Because that's another one they use. It's better than nothing.
All right. But there are no bad books.
Anybody think
I'm sorry, yes there are.
It's the hat, isn't it?
This book, not only does it look stupid, she calls overweight people fatties.
Yeah, fatties and pigs.
Do you really want a book in your collection that does that?
Even
that's horrible. That's horrible. 1983.
Yeah.
There are awful library books, and we want to point out that even on our website, we're not talking about bad books. Well, sometimes they are.
Yeah, regardless of who owns them.
We're talking about bad library books. The things that are on your collection have to meet your library's mission. No two of you may have the exact same mission. You may have different items in your collection. Mary and I have libraries 5 to 10 miles apart.
Yeah.
10 miles maybe apart. Same basic community that we serve. I work for in a 3-story building where Michigan calls it a class 5. You're a tiny size of this room library, significantly different budget. Same basic clientele, very different missions. You know what? We have the space and the budget to buy some more researchy kinds of things. She's never going to do that. So putting something, you had that music, the Oxford,
what's it called? And I swear to God, if I find whoever put that in the collection.
The Oxford Encyclopedia of Music.
No, it was the, what's the big music?
Grove.
Encyclopedia of Music. Our community is 6,000 people. We couldn't even give it away to an academic library for free.
It took up volume.
This much shelf. No one had ever touched it. It's a beautiful thing. But it would so long for us.
It would be used in my library. It's actually a reasonable choice for our reference collection.
We couldn't give it away.
That's an awful library book in her facility, For me, it's not so bad. I was like, I'll take that off your hands.
But you can see the difference there, but it's awful for me, not for a music program,
right.
A university collection. In fact, it's a gorgeous set of encyclopedias. Frankly, it wasn't touched, so it was something. I was just furious because not only that, whoever got it spent a boatload of money on it.
Yeah.
So that is the part that, it's not that it's bad, but that was how many James Pattersons I could have had, Probably only 2 or 3 at this rate. But, that's kind of the trade-off you see. So it isn't always because it's terrible.
It's not a bad book, but it might be bad
for you,
for your situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But someone might need them.
Okay, how many people have heard that one? Someone might need that. Who needs it?
You have them call me at home because I want to talk to them. No one needs this. How cute is this book? This is adorable, right?
Yeah.
1953.
You were dating yourself.
So, it's so cute. We have a toddler with a sewing needle, right?
Headed straight for her eye.
Headed straight for her eye. He's got a hammer headed straight for his face.
Not only that, you want to see gender stereotypes?
Oh, sure. The boy has the hammer and the girl is sewing.
Yes. And she's not allowed to do anything else.
It's adorable. It's cute. It's nostalgic. Someone will snatch this up in a book sale in a minute. In a hot minute. Would you buy this?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, I probably would too.
But was it
does not belong in the library.
Young mother who wants to put crafts together for her kids?
Yeah, bad idea.
There's better stuff. Not only that, some of these things like craft books from the old, they don't exist anymore. But we just put up, I think a couple days ago, about recyclable stuff from Craft from Scrap is the title.
Our title, not the book title.
Yeah, we didn't call it the post title. But it was from 1970. You have the things that they were suggesting you recycle. Most kids wouldn't be able to identify.
Right.
The packaging, well, the Volkswagen Beetle made as a tongue. I thought.
Oh, the hood of it? Yeah.
Yeah, they made it like a tongue. It was really cool. But how many 1970 versions of Volkswagen Beetles are running
And how many
around?
people are like, oh, look what I just happen to have laying around is a hood from a VW Beetle. Here, kids, make some.
All right, maybe in Detroit that works.
Actually.
Yeah, actually that could almost work. But
so I want to know who needs them.
there are more modern choices. Even if you don't have money for a book, you do have the internet at your access. You have craft sites.
You have Pinterest.
Pinterest, my God.
Yes.
And when you show a patron how to do that, they're getting the same jolly from that.
Yes.
Or same need is met.
And when was the last time someone needed this? It's been sitting there for a while. 1953?
Yeah. It actually
I'm
is
saying
a
put it in the
pretty
book sale and take a buck.
Yeah.
It's cute. Here's another cute one.
And this
But
is
it's in good shape.
But it's in good shape.
This is a scan directly from the book.
This book is sitting in my collection of geometries at home. It's adorable.
Tiny, it cracks when you open it.
I open it so beautifully.
Which indicates to me that no one wanted it in 1960 because it's never been used.
Right? So it was stupid in 1960, and it's really stupid in 2013.
So was it a mistake and no one ever looked at it? Did it go out of date too fast? Remember the president books every election year, we hate so-and-so, we love so-and-so. Well, election's over, no one cares.
How many people have the Swift book from John
Kerry? Yeah. Good, you've all weeded it.
Yeah, good. Or if you're too embarrassed to raise your hand, I got rid of it a while back, too. But they go out of date. You know that's a limited lifespan, even if the book is in great shape.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's in good shape is not a reason to keep it. What's in the thing? My personal favorite, but we won't, that's not my favorite, the next one's my favorite. But we won't have anything left. Were you buying the wrong things all along and you have so much to weed that you have nothing left? Rethink your collection policy and the things that you're buying in the first place. Have you, budgets are tough. I don't know about this area, but in Detroit, we're sort of just coming back from hard times.
Yeah.
Libraries have not been buying a lot of things to replace what they're weeding.
And
there's a lot of empty shelves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they really are nervous. Because, my budget went to nothing last year.
Mm-hmm.
We were hanging on by fingernails.
But if you're looking at what's on your shelf and it's current enough, it's just weird. Like, who thought this was a good idea? Re-examine what you're buying. Because if you're weeding,
there anymore, okay?
if you're weeding everything from your collection, why was there so much weird stuff there in the first place?
think a lot of
Rethink
things
what you're
happen too is, we call that kind of corporate mindset. We've always bought this every year.
Right.
You know, kind of, we've always bought 4 versions of the almanac.
Right.
Is that really okay?
You know, pick your favorite.
So you really have to revisit that collection policy on a regular basis. You also see changing needs of the community. Is that addressing it? Holly and I use the example of, everybody knows 2007 Detroit was hit hard, and everybody was losing their job. And I mean, 99% of what I was helping people with was resumes, bankruptcy.
Well, the big 3 automakers,
terrible.
everyone in Detroit works for them.
Yeah.
So everyone in Detroit was
It was
unemployed.
probably the worst time of my life as a librarian because every person was desperate and every person was upset.
Yeah.
But when the career book went out, like, there was nothing left on the shelf but stuff from the 70s. Can you imagine re-entering the workforce? It's horrible. To me, it's malpractice almost, if we have such a thing.
It is.
So just because it's left is not a
And don't forget your electronic collections. Just because it's not on the shelf doesn't mean you don't have access to the information. Do you have databases? Do you have ebooks? Is it on the free internet? There's good stuff out there, I have to say, for free.
I know.
You got stuff, it just doesn't fit on
The
a shelf.
companion part of the run on career materials, and that also vacation stuff or travel guides, absolutely didn't move for a couple of years.
Yeah, no one's going on
No one's
vacation.
supposed to go on vacation. So that is an example of how the changing needs of the community right now can affect what you are going to buy for the future. Now I'm thinking we're going to need to upgrade some travel books as we kind of recover. You know, so you keep that in mind. It all translates down into your collection.